I'm super excited to do this one because sometimes I don't really know where, like, sometimes I just go with what I feel. And a lot of times it's like what's happening in my own life as far as where I feel I need to go next with travel. And so um, for the last, well, really on some level, for my entire adult life at least, I have dealt with neurodivergence. Didn't know it until, 20 years into my um, OT career, but also just with, the mental health issues that come along with trauma. I am what people would refer to as a polytrauma type person. um, Everything from having cancer when I was 5 years old and being exposed to medical trauma of having to be, injected and, naked on a stretcher while people, poked and prodded at me and pulled those, what do they call them, like the lumbar punctures to get the spinal taps. And those were my least favorite. But all that kind of stuff up until, then age 18, I was in a very bad car accident that to date, I've had 25 reconstructive plastic surgeries on my face for, and also to put together my put back together my legs. I lost my eye, one of my eyes, my right eye, in that accident. And then I have also been, a survivor of many other different kinds of things, including sexual assault and both intimate partner violence and, stranger attacks. And so I have sort of always just been the tough girl that's sort of, just powered through, never really took time. And of course, I'm almost 48 years old. So there was a lot of things that we maybe didn't know about, even, maybe TBI from that car accident. I mean, I obviously hit my face extremely hard. It was actually on the steering wheel that came back up at me. And as I went off an embankment. So there is, uh, but I came to pretty quickly. And from the moment that I came to, I actually remember every single moment. And I remember being in the ambulance and I remember answering those questions. Who is the president? Clinton, like, so, um, and that was 30 years ago. I'm celebrating actually the 30th anniversary. I always kind of say it's my 30th birthday. Like, this half of my face is now turning 30 and this half is turning 48. They don't age the same, and that's annoying. But if I can make the whole thing look 30, that would be cool. But anyway, so side note, squirrel. So I have, I, ha- you know, the months and the years really that followed after that were ones of just like extreme. Um, well, to back up, they never, I never got diagnosed with TBI until I was actually working on a TBI unit, mild traumatic brain injury, in Italy, in Vicenza, Italy, on a US military base. And I started to realize that some of the things that I was helping them with, and that as part of that team, I was like, oh my gosh, this has been me, right? So I started to delve into some of the mild TBI, and also that was post. It was 10 years ago that I had the really bad sexual assault, and it was at that time when I was in Italy, because I kind of ran away to Italy after that, and I was just like, I always think God knows what he's doing, and just like said, hey, let's just take, because I was living in Hawaii and that was always the dream for me. I probably spent 8 years combined in my life in Hawaii, taking travel jobs um, and even worked full time there. And I was working and living on 3 different islands, and that's what I was doing when that incident happened. And I just really felt this pull um, to have to go somewhere else. And I always say, like, I had actually spent time in New Zealand and in different places for long periods of time, like months at a time. And you know, I realized a long time ago, I think that um, the destination or the journey comes right when you need it. And travel has always been a really significant part of my healing and even learning parts about myself, right? So, and I know like I know many of you on the call, not all of you, which I'm super glad to see some new faces. Because I think that moving into this, and we'll talk more about the evolution of accessible travel planners in a bit, but I think moving into this, really taking this deep look at uh, accessible travel as it refers to people with invisible disabilities is really important. And I think that there's in regular life, I see this gross misunderstanding of what each person is going through, and especially if you deal with an invisible disability like trauma or pain or neurodivergence or whatever the case may be. And by the way, I use neurodivergence and diversity interchangeably. So if you hear one and you think it's the other, then that's what it is. So I have just spent this. Um, I would dare say that this is the whole reason why accessible travel planners truly got started, is because I can see the misrepresentation, and there's a misrepresentation, especially in the world, but in travel in general, for people that are dealing with things that they may not even know about, much less the people that are trying to help them maneuver throughout the world. And so there's a huge gap in general in the travel industry. And I entered in the travel industry about 3.5 years ago, um, as a way to pivot out of healthcare during COVID, and in order to express my true, I named my travel business Free to Be Me Travel, because I really was feeling confined by the state of the world and being told what I could and couldn't do and couldn't go. And that ended up being a time, and I'm reading this book that Teresa Roddy recommended. Well, I'm listening to it because that's how I mainly do things, but called Be Seen. And, she was talking about a phase in her life where she had um, the greatest opportunity for change and growth was by going places and talking to people and making friends through books and reading and learning and growing. And I really found that to be true during that period of time when, because of my own health and because of the world, I really did not want to go anywhere, and I really did not want to um, be around a lot of other people. So I started listening and watching and learning and growing and changing my worldview to an extreme amount, to where I could step outside of the, um, we talk about vantage point. Like if you really just, if you're down and dirty into a, um, you know, in the world's problems, and gravity is pulling you down into those lowest levels, and you're just in there, deep in the issue at hand, and I saw this happen locally during COVID, where it's like, half the people are saying they're trying to oppress us, and the other half are saying they're trying to kill us. And there's just like, so there's so many of us that were in the middle of that saying, you know, like having a level-headed thought. But it pays, I used to say I would take a cruise in my higher self helicopter and just kind of rise above and look at it from the viewpoints of people that I agreed with or didn't agree with. And it's also at this time that because I had this growing, I had this amazing, in the last masterclass, I called it the like longest job interview to become the founder of Accessible Travel Planners. In that, when I did go to, I've been an extensive traveler, especially within the US, before I got the opportunity to come to Italy in 2016, in early 2016, and I was there for 2.5 years. And not only did I travel to many corners of Italy, but I also traveled to many corners of Europe, went to Israel, like all these different places, and got to just, I went to, in 2.5 years, I went to 27 countries, uh, in addition to, in addition to, uh, to Italy and all these different parts of Italy. And when I tell you I was traveling literally all the time, and I got 10 vacation days a year because I was working for the US military. And I was a contractor, so I had to make it happen. I wanted to call myself the time crunch traveler to show people how they could still get everything in that they needed to, have the therapeutic things, see the popular things, bucket list, check, 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 and still have time to experience and feel, even if it was in a, like I think I went to Prague for the first time for 36 hours. Um, it was just like an amazing, but I had an amazing experience. I was in a beer spa and I got to walk over the famous bridge and, all this different kind of stuff. And so, um, like I was always like, I'd rather go for just a little bit of time than not be able to go at all. And of course, there's many different aspects of travel that can be, that you can describe as uh, not that therapeutic if it's on that level. But I did much of it myself. I became a I would say Olympic heading to pro level of traveler, by researching and looking at apps and figuring out where to stay. Because I was also dealing with, which I didn't realize at the time, 2015 was one of the worst years on record for me because I was also dealing with, in addition to the sexual assault, I was also dealing with a massive infection inside the reconstructed parts of my face. And it ended up being the reason why I've had to have like 7 or 8 additional surgeries, because the infection was literally eating parts of my face out of, and caused so many problems. And I didn't understand it for a while. I actually had to take vancomycin for, through a PICC line for 8 weeks. And I was living in Hawaii at the time. So of course, no getting in the water and no doing anything fun. But I, I got past all of that. And then the other thing happened. And then literally 2 weeks later, I get the word that I am for sure moving to Italy. So this kind of became, like I was like, the only thing that would get me out of Hawaii would be Italy. There's just no way around it. So, anyways, I had what I thought was, and this is another longer story that I don't have time for, but what I thought was happening was I beat the infection, and then I actually was in New York City just weeks before I moved, to have surgery to remove some of that infected stuff out of my face in the at the Institute for Reconstructive Plastic Surgery in New York City. So like Langhone, I had been there a couple different times throughout my time there, and when I came back in 2019 or whatever, and then I thought that everything was fine. And for 6 months, the first 6 months I lived in Italy, it was great. I was pain free. I was infection free. I was living it up. I was traveling my buns off, drinking the wine, eating the pasta, pizza, whatever the case may be. Um, and then I started getting migraines, and this started happening for months at a time. And I went and saw Italian doctors, German doctors, on base providers, all that kind of stuff. And everybody just diagnosed it as a migraine. And it wasn't until I decided to actually move back to the States in 2018 because it had gotten so bad. I would have these ice pick, um, sensitive to everything, uh, light, sound, smell type of thing. I went on a cruise in 2018, and having to walk through the part where they sell all the duty free stuff with the perfume. If we could just outlaw perfume, it would probably be the best thing ever for anybody neurodivergent. But anyways, but on flights, I was in extreme heat, and that would exacerbate it. And I didn't realize that it was an infection that had come and was kind of like behind my eye, and because this whole part of my face is rebuilt. And so um, I actually had an Italian surgeon figure that out, and he was able to remove a bunch more infected stuff. He actually did take my real eye, which was underneath the cosmetic covering of my artificial eye, and then I had to move back 3 weeks later because I'd already started that process. Which I'm eternally thankful that I was home during COVID instead of in Italy, but that's another story. So, but for 2 years, I was traveling with severe migraines that have created some really lasting sensory issues. I'm very sensitive to sound. Um, uh, Dave could tell you, but and it's funny because whenever we're in the same room, he's deaf, like deaf, and wears hearing aids and all that kind of stuff. But it's a constant battle. It's a constant battle. But anyway, so I had to learn how to travel and even be on flights. And I yelled at a flight attendant one time because she was trying to put the shade up on my window, and I was like, "Leave it!" It's like I don't think the guy's gonna be looking back out the back out my window to try to park the plane. Okay, the planes only go forward. Just leave it closed. I don't know why that's a rule, but anyway, so I spent a lot of time not only exploring different parts of the world because I wasn't going to let it slow me down. I mean, and I took every combo of drugs. I was putting stuff in my belly button. I thought about getting my ears pierced, like there's a canalith, whatever, or not canalith. But anyways, so I actually, that was also main point of this story is that was also a huge, huge, sort of research recon of sensory friendly travel and creating, like down to there's so much that goes into it for invisible disabilities and all that kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, while I was experiencing that, when you're experiencing pain and when you're experiencing trauma and reliving and all those kind of things, it gets very hard to go into that higher self helicopter, right? And be able to take a look at it and say, these people, that are around me or people that think differently than me. And I'm not going to get too into like current events or anything, but I think we can all agree that the world is in an interesting space. And to me, the only thing that's ever helps me truly break through a trauma response or even pain or whatever and chronic kind of stress and anxiety. I've dealt with it all, is to go and be in a new place or a healing place or talk to different people or meet different people, have the conversations with the people that you are nervous about. I've seen people have misconceptions about people from the Middle East and people from, Asia or whatever the case may be. And it's like the best way to do it is to travel there and see for yourself. And a lot of people are scared. They think that the world is a dangerous place, that it's really not. They, I in both Germany and I'll tell you guys this, I visit France quite a bit right now because I have a kind of a safe haven spot to come visit here. And I don't lock the doors most of the time to my car, to the house. I mean, of course at night or whatever, but it's it's most of the world is extremely safe. And I think that the news kind of gives it a bad rap. Of course, don't be dumb, but obviously, and I just know like there's no way that I mean, I do have a gate that blocks out people from coming into the house. And I do lock it at night, but you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't worry about it um, like I did in the States, in different parts of the States. And so, anyways, that's kind of where, it's kind of a story, but even in the, in the 90s, when I was coming of age, we had the ADA come of age, that's when the ADA started. And we were really active, in advocating for people with disabilities in the 90s. And I almost think like some of that was almost felt super grassroots. We had the Don't Diss My Ability campaigns on college campuses. And I went to Colorado State University, and my freshman year was the year that Matthew Shepard was killed in Wyoming, just to the north of us. And it had a huge impact. And if you don't know the Matthew Shepard case, um, he was a a homosexual individual, a gay individual, who was brutally beaten and then like tied to I mean, he was murdered in a horrible way. And it was definitely hate filled for who he was. And then that led us into Journey to a Hate-Free Millennium. And, we were active on those and we were debating these issues all the time to see like, you know, and we were doing that on the campus, also in the campus ministry houses, and there was just lots of dialogue and discussion going on. And then once I graduated college, I actually went out to I was out in New Zealand for like a month and a half with my sister, and we would stay in these different backpackers, and there would be like people from all over. Um, and we would just have dinner. We would all make dinner together. And I did this again when I was in New Zealand in 2013, and we would just have conversations, and we would say like, "You're from Scotland. What do you think?" And "You're from Israel," and we would just have these conversations. And sometimes, like there was no Google Translate or whatever, but everybody could we could find common ground to agree on, because you can find ways that you can disagree, but you can find ways that you can agree. And I think travel is the glue, and going and experiencing other cultures. Travel is mentioned many times in the Bible, in all walks of, religion, and it's pretty much the coolest thing, right? Because most of us are on here because we either work with people in some sort of setting where we're in charge of helping them heal and move past, or we have ourselves been in a position where we have needed deep healing, like I've been going on and on about. So and have gone to those places, and I've been asking people for the last month, where their happy places, and we'll get to that. I want to hear all of your happy places as well. So with that, I will go ahead and share my screen, but I just wanted to, this is more of a, okay, this is more of a, um, this is a less structured one today than I've done before. And if this is the first time you're getting on one of my master classes, um, I will, when I send out the replay, I will send out the link to the free like course that houses all of my previous master classes, so you can go back and take a look at some different ones, because the last two that I've done focused on mental health, invisible disabilities, all that kind of stuff. Where am I here? Oops. Why can I not see it? Mm, bring all to front. No? Oh, come on. Every other time it does it. Can you guys see that? Dave, can you see that, healing destinations? Okay. Thank you for the big thumbs up. It's like someone put toes on his hands. All right, so let me get this into slideshow mode. Okay. All right. So, okay. I think we have some people that are losing the call. Anyways, so I'm going to be talking just a little bit about, this is actually a very short presentation because I kind of wanted to have that, and I want to have a little bit of dialogue at the end. So because this is an extension of the other master classes. My most popular to date master class was on traveling with neurodiversity, divergence, whatever you want to call it. And it's been watched the most as a replay. But I will give you access to all of the other classes if you do not have it when I send out the replay and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, so today we're focusing on accessible travel for mental health, neurodivergence, and other invisible disabilities. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to make some announcements. There is no masterclass next month. I just kind of made this decision recently, as I feel like I'm getting backed up in promotion and not doing enough creation. So I've been doing these for almost a year. And so I am going to take a break for the month of October while I bring some new stuff forward, and I really need to put the time in. And I have the time to put in, but I get bogged down in other stuff. So I'm really going to refocus. And I actually feel like we've kind of covered all the major topics that accessible travel has to offer. So as far as this type of masterclass, so we're going to be getting into some new stuff coming up pretty soon. So also, I got word that my app for accessible travel planners is almost done after probably a 3-month delay because of things that don't matter. But basically communication between me and the app developers. The app is almost here. And so this will be where all of my courses, all of the courses for accessible travel planners, as well as the communities that we're developing. We currently have a CATP community for certified accessible travel planners. That is a community where they can go and trade ideas, collaborate, share, how to set up an event. We had one of our people doing an event today, I believe at a neurodiversity or neurodivergent or something like that, accessible event. So we're getting out into the community more and more. And eventually accessible travel planners will be a place where people who want to travel can come and get help, and we will partner them with with a a certified accessible travel planner. So we are also working on a transition to nonprofit status. I had earlier this year, I had said that we were going to start a nonprofit that was linked to accessible travel planners. And really, the more we got to looking at it, is that ATP itself is more of a nonprofit than anything, because we want to create access to anyone and everyone. And as you know, to the world. And as you know, that a lot of times access means cost, and cost that a lot of people that we serve do not have. And so, and in addition to that, we're going to get serious about doing something that is one of the biggest reasons why I started this, and that is doing mission and service trips to other places where we could benefit them with our combined knowledge. So our travel knowledge is combined with whatever your background is, right? So many of us are PTs, OTs. We have a growing mental health professional category. We have the people with disabilities themselves. We have a couple of wheelchair users. We have nurses. We have everybody you could think of is coming into our community, and we have a lot of good that we can do. I see people doing a lot of good in the world using their skills, and why not traveling all over the world to do it? So why not combine it? And I always said, here's what I want to do. I want to take, because I've been on several mission trips with my church and with other entities, and it's always like whenever I'm from Western Colorado, so we used to bomb down in a van to oh, speaking of which, there's Lindsay. We used to like bomb in a van, in 15 passenger vans, down to Mexico to do build houses for people. And it would, like, we would go down there, and we would do the thing. It was like a 2-day thing, and then we would come back and we would drive all the way back home, and it was expensive, right? Because mission and service work is often expensive, because you're donating money and yourself and your service to the cause many times. And I did one to Belize, working with a bunch of speech therapists, as it turns out, and students in Belize City, working with the Ministry of Special Education. And that was a super expensive trip. And it was at a time when I didn't have a lot of money, but I was committed to the cause. So I made it happen. But it was really expensive. So I figure there's a good way that we can take skilled people and just grassroots do good stuff for the world in different places. But then also, instead of just heading on back, why not take some bougie vacation for a couple, 3 days? Because most of these places have bouginess right down the road, not too far, that we can go relax, enjoy together. I mean, like, it's just it's a no-brainer to me. So I wanted to have, Belize was something. I mean, we did go do a couple of activities, but in general, I was staying at the zoo. That's another story, but um and not like with the cheetahs or anything, but like the zoo was next door, and there was a big learning center that they had there anyway. So um it was not bougie though. It was not bougie. So anyways, that will be coming as soon as I can work through the process. And yeah, so hopefully by the end of the year, but it's not as easy as it sounds, which it probably doesn't sound easy either. But and then we're going to be launching many new courses and programs, and so that is part of what I'm going to take some time off to do in the meantime, as far as actually getting those up and running, so that we can we can be offering things. And the biggest thing that I'm probably most excited about is offering subspecialties in things like mental health travel, neurodivergent travel, like our um, Walk, Roll, in Rome course, where we featured people like Miss Lindsay Rabbit, who's just got on the call, and and so we can have really these subspecialties in all these different areas, so that we can really dive into it. Senior travel, all that kind of stuff. So as we go along, we grow along, and there's a little bit of a lag time with being able to keep up with the programs to what we're um, everything we need to do in addition to everything else. We also do have, if you are not yet a travel agent, um, we do have business opportunity overviews done by one of our leaders. We can help you partner with the host agency that we use. If you are a travel agent already, even with a different host agency, be sure to let me know. And I will make sure that you are connected to the course and the information if that's what you want your path to be. Teresa Roddy, could you happen to put that? I forgot to get that link. Could you could you go find it and put it into the comments, please?
Which link again?
For the it's I don't think it's Lauren doing it 'cause she's on a cruise in Alaska, but the one for tonight, um, the business opportunity overview.
Okay, I'll go look for it.
Okay, it should be. I think that Sarah posted it in the Learn group.
Okay, I'll find it. No worries.
Okay. I think it's the same link. I'm not sure, but anyways, so we'll get that in there for anybody who wants to. And then I will be talking more about this anyways later on, but we are going to the incentive reboot offered will be offered at the end of this class. So please hang in there with me, and we will make sure we do a little something extra for everybody who got on live. But I will be talking more about that. So everything, if you learned about the Travel is Therapy promo last month, it's the Travel is Therapy promo this month, where we give you an opportunity to win or earn your own healing destination travel incentive. Okay, so who this class is for: travel professionals, mental health providers and therapists, wellness professionals, accessibility advocates, those who live with invisible disabilities that want to travel more. So today we will be exploring the emerging intersectionality of travel, mental health, and accessibility. So really what this is designed is to, just in this course, is to give you a taste of what's possible when we put not only combined skills and shared knowledge together, but really, to create truly inclusive travel experiences that will, I mean, we have to customize everything. And the way we do that is by having a really robust knowledge base and under a broad understanding that then we can take deep into the details of the individual. And there's a very fun and rewarding way to help people who have, I'm helping, they're actually leaving in about 10 days. She's actually my neighbor from my hood in Grand Junction, and she's had multiple TBIs. She's fallen and hit her head, and then she was hiking, but she's had like 7 or 8 mild TBIs, and she now has kind of permanent neurodivergence because of that. She has dizziness. She has cognitive slowing in certain ways, and definitely sound sensitivity and all that kind of stuff. And they wanted to go to England to visit friends, and then France to her husband wanted to see Normandy. And we had to work um, very carefully to make sure that we were getting the right hotels with the right rooms in the right places of the building, and that the travel wasn't too, like, she was remembering travel from her 20s. She's in her 60s, and she was remembering travel in her 20s that was, just take a train or a plane for no money and travel overnight. And then, but that's very exhausting. It's very loud. It's very vestibularly crazy. So we have now it's been a process, but it's been super enjoyable for me to help find the perfect destinations. We actually are sending the husband to Normandy by himself because I don't think that, she just didn't think she would enjoy it. And I think she's already seen it. So she's actually staying in a spa hotel while he goes and does that. And she's gonna just experience and enjoy those healing features of the spa hotel. So it's super fun. It's super fun. I love doing this. Healing destinations by the numbers. The concept of travel as therapy has evolved from a niche idea to a mainstream recognition of travel's therapeutic potential. That's what I've been talking about and rattling on about. So the shift represents a fundamental change in how we view the relationship between movement, place, and mental well-being. And so, $814 billion is what it's estimated at. And that's probably just this. I would say that most of the travel that we do within this space is probably not recognized in this number, but it's projected to be 1.3 trillion. But just helping people go places to heal and experience, um, recharge, therapize, whatever the case may be. Yeah, I know that's not a word. 25% annual growth rate of compound annual growth rate, significantly outpacing traditional tourism sectors. Of course, accessible travel is right up there with it. There are huge growth areas, especially post COVID. There's so much demand. I always just kind of laugh when people are like, well, is it saturated? I'm like, no, nothing that we do is saturated. In fact, we need all hands on deck because there's so many different ways to niche within this niche, right? It's like I said, it's moved into a mainstream type of thing. There's just a huge gap in travel, and with being able to the supply and demand of people who need special accommodations, which like the ADA says that workplace accommodations, most workplace accommodations for people with disabilities is it's somewhere around a couple $100. It's a special desk, or it's a different lighting or something like that to accommodate. Like you don't need to spend tons and tons of money or make these huge differences. There's starting to be more. Like there's quiet spaces, there's sensory low spaces in airports now and all that kind of stuff. But getting there, good luck. Like so there's just a lot to be done, and it's almost like it's almost just yours for the taking, especially if you can, you know, figure out your special, like probably what has what travel has done for you is probably where you could niche the most. Understanding invisible disabilities in travel. So, interesting little factoid down here, 70% of all disabilities are invisible to others, it's estimated, yet most travel accommodations focus solely on visible physical needs. And that's not even that great. Okay, what is there? I mean, you can talk to people about wheelchair damage and losing their wheelchairs or walkers and things, just like it's a horrible mess, or there's still a lack of ramps and accessible pathways, but there's a bigger gap because it's a harder thing to regulate, right, and pin down. And you know and as a result, there's a lot of discrimination, and it's a lot of it can be due to people are just unprepared, and they don't know their rights, and they don't have the plan laid out for them piece by piece, and they're wanting to do too much in too little time. And it's like, take the rest and take the build in all these things that we talk about in accessible travel. So invisible disabilities encompass a wide range of conditions that significantly impact travel. This little Zoom thing, it keeps zooming around. Um, that significantly impact travel experiences but aren't immediately apparent to others. These include mental health conditions, neurodivergence, chronic illness and pain, and cognitive differences. Common travel challenges: sensory overload, obviously, bright lights, loud announcements, crowded spaces, all that kind of stuff can just be devastating to many people, including myself. And then it comes out as anger. Sorry. Cognitive fatigue, complex navigation systems, language barriers, decision-making demands, and information processing challenges. And our world is not getting better at this. It's getting worse. Even they're just figuring out new ways to bombard you with ads, right? Like you go to the gas station and you got to watch this ad, and then, it's like it's everywhere. I'm like, I just want to pump my gas, dude. So trauma triggers, security procedures, confined spaces, unexpected changes, and unfamiliar environments that can trigger PTSD or panic responses. That safety that I was talking about, and how, that hypervigilance with PTSD and different types of sexual trauma and whatever, that is very important. Even tonight, I was walking down on the beachfront, and it's in a very safe area. But I saw a guy get up, like right as I walked past him. He looked over at us and then he got up, and I was sitting there. I went and sat down till he walked by me because it just looked weird, And I'm sure maybe nothing, if anything, he's maybe gonna try to steal something because he thought I was not aware because I had an AirPod in. But like that's the type of thing. And of course, it's always good to be situationally aware. I'm not saying that, but sometimes that little thing, like a dude just moving, interesting, like choosing to stand up and follow, it looked like something out of a show, right? So I had a momentary of like, okay, I'm just gonna sit and wait for this guy to go by and make sure he's not, following me or whatever the case may be. And then social anxiety, interactions with staff, group activities, dining experiences, and cultural differences. I mean, even like I've had, I didn't know this, but I need to stay in a room by myself these days. I don't like it. It's not good for me to share a room with other people. Last year I went to the convention for our travel business, and we stayed in a big house full of people, and they did it again this year. I didn't go this year, but I ended up never having a moment to myself, just of quiet. And there was loud people in the in the house as well, like the extroverts that are just loud, and they just want to be around people all the time, and God bless them, but that's not me. And so yeah, so anxiety and PTSD, hypervigilance, panic attacks, avoidance, sensory processing can be over under responsiveness to sensory input, affecting comfort, safety, and enjoyment. And it's not always like every autistic kid needs or a person with neurodivergence needs um, needs a needs noise canceling headphones, or that kind of thing. There is people who are hypo unable to, like a hard hearing person. That's someone else that has different needs. Like I can see Dave, if we go throughout the day, he's got to cognitively pay attention to more to what's being said, even though he's got hearing aids, because he can't hear it. And so he's got to pay more attention, and he gets tired by the end of the day. So don't ask him to do anything at the end of the day. Um, Defining healing destinations. A healing destination goes beyond traditional wellness tourism by intentionally integrating mental health support, accessibility, blah, 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 elements into every aspect of the travel experience. These destinations recognize that true wellness must be expansive and accessible to all travel. So, predictable environments, clear signage, consistent routines, advanced information sharing, and so on, structured for some people. Most people, that's what they need, is a sense of structure, but not having every minute defined for them. Cultural wellness practices. This is where we come in. We do a lot of pre-trip planning, so that if you're going to another country and you need to, or even another part of the US, if you're in the US, right? The South is different from the West, and the North is different from the South. It's so there's just a little bit of education to be done about what's in when you're going into someone else's house, what needs to be respected. Um, I cringe sometimes when I see like the cruise ship come in with a bunch of Americans into Italy or wherever I am, and luckily I think most people don't understand what they're saying, but I understand what they're saying, and it's just culturally rude sometimes. And vice versa. Sometimes the people in the country that you're coming into, that they don't understand your culture either. And so a lot of that's where I was talking about at the beginning of the call, is just a lot of information sharing and whatnot. So nature immersion can often be the best opportunity for a true healing destination. Um, and can, just even breathing in fresh mountain air or the ocean breeze or whatever the case may be, can reduce cortisol levels, improve mood, decrease rumination and reliving, and enhance cognitive functioning through natural settings. And then universal design is accessibility that works for everyone, including clear wayfinding, sensory friendly spaces, flexible accommodation options, and inclusive programming. So, I mean, universal design is a bit of a myth, but there are certain things that can be put into place that will be beneficial to just about everybody, even if they don't necessarily need them or know they need them. Dang it. Okay. So global healing destinations by region. I kind of just did some research on different parts. So in Asia, there's Japan, forest medicine. Europe, Iceland is always a big one. That's their therapeutic waters and etc. And I'm going to talk a little bit later about some other places in Europe that I've found that have equally as therapeutic healing waters, that are a little more off the beaten path, because that's what I really like to find. Everywhere I went in Iceland was super. I didn't get way off the beaten path, but it was super expensive and it was super crowded. So Iceland has been discovered. Central America, Costa Rica is always a kind of a winner in all the, the wellness areas that you can find almost any type of blank retreat. Like I have a friend that goes to a surfer girl retreat, it's the bikini, retreat every year, and they surf and do mindset and hang out, and it's great, but there's obviously yoga. It's what's one of the blue zones, right? So it's Japan. They have a place in the blue zone there. So North America, national park therapy, rather than choosing one specific place. I think that's pretty, when I was a kid, we just went to as many national parks as we could. Of course, I had an insane amount within like probably an 8-hour radius of where I lived. So that was very fortunate. Um, but there can be urban healing, sensory friendly cities. I didn't really do a whole lot of work on this, but I figured like some people actually do find healing within the city. I'm not one of them, but I do like to go into the city, occasionally to, we were just in Paris a couple months ago, and I like to go for short periods of time. I don't necessarily, it did, although I will say Paris can be very healing. It's a very beautiful place. And so I've been to, I've had amazing experiences in Rome, Venice, and all those kind of things. But, some of the other more traditional big cities in the US, I don't know if I would consider them healing, but that's just me. But Oceanic cultural healing practices. So there's kind of, but that's something I kind of threw together real quick. And we're going to talk about others that are your favorites. Essential accessibility considerations, of course, and I'll just kind of blow through these because I talk about them every single time. Transportation solutions, we do door to door, and we do months beforehand and planning, and doing simulation, social stories if that's beneficial, practicing, looking at videos online, like whatever the case may be, to try to anticipate every single aspect of the trip, including trains, planes, automobiles, Ubers, whatever the case may be. So finding quiet zones on trains, priority pre-boarding assistant, TSA cares programs, all those kind of things. The lanyard programs are on there, are a good way to, in some cases, help out. Inclusive lodging design. We like one of my scenarios to become a certified accessible travel planner is planning a trip to Disney for a child with autism that has sensory challenges. And this is it's interesting actually how many people do the different research, and they find different places for them to stay both in the park and outside of it that are more sensory friendly, and their reasons why make sense. So I think there's, you know, where the room is in location to the elevator or the stairwell or the maid room. I had that the other day. I'm like, what is going on? Why? Oh, they're clean. And they're like their little maid, closet was right there. Didn't think about that one. So, and adaptive technology. flexible check-in and out procedures, and staff trained in disability awareness. So that's why there's different um, chains and different things that we recommend that we know. Like I travel with Service Dog. It's the cutest little service dog in the world. I stay in Hilton's as often as possible because I have a little button I can click that says traveling with a service animal. And I, not never, but I rarely get a person wherever I am in the world that doesn't understand that that dog has rights. You don't charge me extra fees and all that kind of stuff. That's usually not the same experience in other places. So that's why I remain a Hilton girl. Um, One of the reasons. Accessible attractions. Sorry, I've been having a little cold. I mean, you can get sensory toolkits, theme parks with calming spaces, nature centers with accessible trails, and cultural sites with inclusive interpretation. And then just places that have trained support staff. For example, I mean, this is an example. I don't know if there's like super trained for mental health adults. I know there's more like there's even all-inclusive resorts that are more geared toward adults, or resorts in the Caribbean and stuff like that, that are more geared toward peaceful places. But um, the all of the beaches resorts through Sandals, those are the family friendly resorts. They all have certified autism trained autism travel professionals, or whatever they're called. On site, they have special programming for kids with differing abilities, and there's things like Autism on the Seas and other things that go into that help to having those people that are specifically trained. So, yes, and then just the best practice is start to go, and my people are doing this a lot. Just go into your local area and find different disability organizations. I give a ton of ideas in my course, in the Specialized and Accessible Travel Planners course, and to ensure authentic, effective accessibility implementations. And that includes like people coming to the area where you live. We had this hometown, experiences that we were doing when we first got started. And I was having everybody go in their hometown and just figure out the the different ways that they could help bring accessible travel into their area, and talk to the tourism boards in your area. Like you don't think about it, but there's really uh, quite a lot of opportunity there as well, to be part of your travel and tourism in your local area and bring people there, and then you can help with the programming and make sure that all of these needs are met. Do you ever think about that? Something to think about. So, um, business applications for travel professionals. So obviously, I'm just going to kind of blow through this, but um, identify your expertise. And so, like I said before, how can you combo what you do now and what you've been trained to do with travel planning and make really amazing experiences for other people? And we always start with yourself. We teach you how to do it for yourself too, because a lot of us are on this journey somewhere, and you might just be a couple of steps ahead of of everything from the people that you're going to help. And you don't have to know it all because we have a really great community. Develop specialized services so you can create targeted offerings. Corporate wellness retreats is something that I got into a few years ago. Dave and I did. We were doing like um, we wanted to do like be the wellness departments, or like the whatever, the wellness programs and stuff for smaller businesses, and even mid-sized like hospitals and stuff, because they didn't have enough to hire their own person and pay them. And we were going to do these cruise and learn things, and we had it all in the works, but then we had, I think it was like Katrina hit or something, and we couldn't do that anymore. But there is so much possibility out there, especially when you look at kiddos who have, or families who have a neurodivergent kiddo. There is really just a lot of um, there's just a lot of ways that you can impact trauma informed group experiences. Like I love this. I've always like wanted to have something called trauma informed trips or trauma informed travel. But I can't make it, I can't call that tit. So somebody help me come up with a different name. Um, tilt, trauma informed, lived, tra tilted. Anyways, so build strategic partnerships, collaborate with other travel professionals, wellness resorts, healthcare organizations, disability advocacy groups to expand reach and credibility. I mean, I have people go to health fairs, accessibility fairs, neurodivergent, like there's all kind of stuff that you can go to. Senior fairs, like senior housing, like whatever the case may be. There's just a lot of ways that you can impact even in your local community and help them travel. The majority of the travel I book is from my hometown. So almost all of it, because I just get it's word of mouth referrals. So that's where people know me the best. And, I've helped people from high school, my neighbors, my parents, like whatever. So, and then position yourself as a healing focused certified accessible travel professional. Um, Emerging market opportunities is corporate wellness travel, educational institutions, schools, universities, all kinds of stuff. They need programming, and they want outside people to come in and impact the next generations and all that kind of stuff. So there's a lot of opportunity. Corporate wellness travel is something, like we said up top, that could be, you could really even talk to people in your local area that have, small businesses. And I'm not talking like small, like one person, but necessarily, but like if they have 10 or 12 or 20 employees, this is a huge tax write-off for them too, to go have a retreat that's built on team building and wellness and all this kind of stuff. And then it also helps with bringing down health insurance rates for that company and stuff like that too. Okay, so this is what I was talking about at the beginning. I've gone on a little bit longer than I planned, but exclusive travel as therapy incentive extension. So our travel as therapy healing destinations incentive has been extended, and hopefully my people are getting the word out about that through the end of September. So we did it through Labor Day last month, or through the end of the month, and then extended it through Labor Day. And it was something that kind of came to me last minute, so I didn't really have time to get it out like I did this month. So I decided to extend it, and plus we've just extended our conversation on mental health. So basically what this is if you start your business and you get through our getting started process, it's a 28-day course that literally holds your hand and walks you through setting up your business. Teaches you how to be consistent, how to be a business owner. We call it going from employee to entrepreneur. And then, of course, purchasing the course and going from there and doing certain things by certain dates. And we also do a little extra for people who immediately jump in and get to a certain point by a certain place. So this is something I put up online, but you can definitely, if you're not already a part of it, and you're not already a part of the team, because you should already know how to access this. But if you are someone who is on the call right now or on the class, you can either comment, or you can message me directly, or you can get back with the person who invited you and find out more information about starting your business. Um, it's what we want to do to help you get started and reward you for taking action, because we need a lot of. I've been talking to a lot of people who've been hanging out on the fence, and they have very limiting beliefs, right? They need this mental health travel as much as anybody, about starting, or it's not the right time. It's kind of like having kids, or doing a bunch of different stuff, or taking that trip, is that the timing is never going to be perfect. You got to make it happen, and then the timing will fall into place, and you'll figure it out. And we help people figure that out along the way, because it's designed to go along with whatever else is going on in your life. Nobody starts this full time. So, and this month I will also extend this offer to anyone who buys the ATP course. If you're already a travel professional, because I know my people have been out there talking to other travel agents with other host agencies or whatever the case may be. If that is you, you can you can get in on this. I'm going to change the criteria a little bit, but I will give you this same opportunity to win one of these healing destinations. And then my little asterisk, terms and conditions apply, is that I will this is not a free trip. This is not me giving you a free trip. This is a deeply discounted trip because you pay taxes and fees only. It is literally illegal for me to pay taxes and fees for you. And so obviously the Hawaii and Santorini ones are going to be a little bit more expensive. I think the Hawaii one for 5 nights in Hawaii is $440 for, oceanfront. So there's, I don't know if you priced Hawaii lately, but it's a good deal. So don't come to me saying, I promise you a free trip. Because that is not what it is. But it is a deeply discounted. And some of the other ones, I think I put Galveston on there. They have like the Hilton, like oceanfront resort on that list, and it's like $30 or $40 a night. So when you pay taxes and fees. So there's some good stuff out there. And